Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. Well, we have had another intense energy period. Yesterday was the new moon solar eclipse in Libra, and this was the second eclipse of our second eclipse season, which means we're done with eclipses for 2024. But this one was quite potent and it had a lot to say. Plus, before I forget, we also had a couple of really strong X-class flares. Today we had an X-class flare that was, I think, about a 9.1. And yesterday we also had an X-class flare that was 7, somewhere like 7.5 or something like that. That's pretty intense energy. So you've probably been feeling it. When we're having X flares, those are major flares. And we haven't had one that's been a size 9, I think, in 15 years. So we've had the most intense solar flare in this current sun cycle. And I think, like I said, for a long period of time. So we are really ramping up. But back to the new moon solar eclipse. So a solar eclipse is a power disruption. It also acts like a portal, a moment for change, it's kind of like an Uno reverse a little bit, like things are going to change when you're going through the eclipses. And this one was a south node eclipse. So it's happening in the sign of Libra. Libra is where the south node is right now. And the south node is about what we're letting go. And specifically with it in Libra, we're letting go of codependence, or how we are overly dependent on either one another, on groups, and even on institutions. So it's a time for us to create a healthier partnership by recognizing our own sovereignty and standing on our own 2 feet. So we are looking at the patterns where we are over dependent on other people. And that was one of the major themes that was going on yesterday. So even though that theme feels heavy, mixed with that was the sense of a turning point and things turning for the better. So both the sun and moon were at 10 degrees. So there was a lot of energy around things resolving and moving in a better direction. But first, we had some work to do. And that brings me in to the message from the team. The message from the team is talking about looking at where your unconscious mind is sort of running the show. Because if you find that you're not seeing growth in your life, in a certain part of your life, there's a good chance that there's some unconscious mental activity there. And during this window of time, we're being asked to really focus in on really looking at what we're resisting or what we're doing unconsciously. Like, what are we just doing as a force of habit rather than being present with what's at hand and with ourselves? Because the key to this change is mindfulness and presence. So staying present in the moment, looking at your behavior and recognizing that perhaps you're in resistance and what you're doing right now is a sort of stall tactic towards what you know you need to do to grow. And this gets me thinking about manifesting and some of the misconceptions people have about manifesting. You know, one of the big misconceptions that the general public holds, right? Because many people in the general public look down on manifesting, see it as magical thinking. Magical thinking and manifesting are 2 different things. And that we've definitely been misled in the past about what it means to manifest. Like, if I just decide it's mine, then it's mine. Well, that is part of the equation, but that's only half of the equation. You know, I'm a big proponent of making an intentional decision and then taking action. Those are the 2 parts. And actually, if you look at the hemispheres of our brain and how they operate, they show you that that's how it works. So in Jose Silva's work, he talked a lot about this. He talked about the brainwave states, about how our beta brainwave state, which is when our eyes are opening and we're focusing, we're in beta brainwaves. That naturally moves us to our left hemisphere. That's the doing state. And a lot of people try to make decisions from the doing state. And he taught people how to access their alpha brainwave state. Now, alpha brainwave is that light trance state we go into it all day long. So it's not unnatural for us to go into alpha brainwaves. Every time you daydream, every time you kind of go into a trance, we go into it when we're in our car, our eyes gently unfocused, and we just kind of know the way home. I know that sounds scary to say that, but I want you to think about it and how on autonomic it is for you to drive, let's say from your work to your home. You just do it, and you don't even think about all those steps. It's now happening, and there is sort of a trance state that happens there. Well, that puts us in our right hemisphere. So when we're going into alpha brainwave state, we're tapping into our creativity. Creativity lives in the right hemisphere. And what Jose Silva taught people was that what you want to do, if you want to make really powerful choices in life, if you really want to see sort of like a more success in your life in terms of making accurate choices, the best choice for you, then the way that you would go about that is you would first access your right hemisphere through the alpha brainwave state, through that trance, and set the intention or understand, call forth what's the best path forward for me at this time. What path would provide me the most success or the most ease or create this certain outcome? We would actually sit with that in a slightly trance meditative state and allow it to come to us. And then once we receive that, move over and take action. So the big misconception around manifesting, a lot of people hold who don't understand it, is it's magical thinking, right? I'm just thinking it's going to be mine and it's mine. I'm just deciding from some arbitrary place that it's going to happen, and then we go on our way. That would be considered magical thinking and not manifesting. Somehow this gets better. But we also know that one of the universal laws is if nothing happens, so if you take no action, nothing happens. You get no results. In order to get a result, you need to take actions. And so at this time, one of the places that we can look to help ourselves is, where am I not seeing the growth that I am asking for in my life? And have I gone unconscious in this area in any way? Or am I trying to get answers from an action-based state? So when we're in our left hemisphere, we don't have access to that higher level of consciousness, to that source energy inspiration state. That's in our right hemisphere. Our doing hemisphere is our logical side. This is how we get things done. This is how we take the command that we set for ourselves and move it into action. And so we're being asked to look at, am I using magical thinking to get things done? Am I just going, I hope this gets better, or I intend for this to be better, but not actually following through with divinely guided action? Or are we trying to make the best decision for moving forward from a purely doing state, from our beta brainwaves left hemisphere, and we're not allowing ourselves to tap into higher guidance that would that is available to us at this time, and that would guide us on the most aligned path forward? So that's really the message from the team right now with this eclipse, is to consider, where is growth lacking in my life? And then let me look at how I handle situations in that area of life, and it will show me what switch I need to make, right? Either I need to really take whatever's coming, whatever that intention is, and get that guidance and move into action, or I need to stop taking action for a moment and go into the guidance part, let myself get a more specific form of guidance, something that will really lead me in the direction I intend to go. And then once I have that, then go back into action. And with that, let's look at this week's karma cards. All right, if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 3 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message for this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with that beautiful intuition of yours and feel into the answers you're looking for. Are you looking for what actions to take at this time? or how things are you looking for how things will resolve over the next week. And of course, you can always choose both. And while you are choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for October 3rd through October 8th. And the flavor of this reading, we have the planet Neptune, planet of dreams, planet of ideals, and spirituality. So it's talking about sort of the higher aspects or that right hemisphere. In the sign of Sagittarius, and the Sagittarius rules the higher mind. So it's all about that mental expansion and learning more from a broader perspective, the bird's eye view. In the 12th house, which is it is the karmically connected to Neptune as well. It is the house of karma. It is the house of secrets or what is unconscious. It is the house of endings and spiritual evolution. So if you're choosing action, your spiritual action at this time is to inspire others with your highest ideals, seeking oneness with all that is. What I'm hearing is go into the right hemisphere, right? We're going to practice. A good way to practice this week is to, before trying to take action on something or as you're trying to make a decision, is to pause, close your eyes, tune in, and go into that right hemisphere. Just sit there for 5, 10, 20 minutes is all it will take. The bigger the thing, the more you have to overcome emotion or get into a neutral space, the longer it'll take. But if you're already pretty neutral about something, you can close your eyes, go right in, and start getting that inspired information, inspiring others to do so as well. Mental action at this time, be prepared to sacrifice for the rules of philanthropy. So the rules of philanthropy, at least what I'm getting from my team, is that willingness to give without an expectation on return. So being prepared to sacrifice for this might mean that you're going to have to at least give up trying to get to an outcome and rather focus on trying to get the wiring of how you make decisions and then take action down. That's really sort of the practice of doing it this way is more important than the outcomes at this time, and that it acts as an act of service for others, because the more mindful we become, the more aware we become of what we're saying and what we're doing and our impact on the world. And so again, it's really getting into this place of mindfulness, mindful decision, mindful consideration turns into mindful action. Physical action at this time, yielding is the only way to get out in the world and keep your involvement hidden. This reminds me of the messages that came through with the eclipse, because with a new moon eclipse, there is actually not a real strong action to take. It's not a doing moon like most new moons would be. Most new moons are identify your plan, formulate your plan, and move into action. With an eclipse, because there is a disruption of the solar power that mirrors a disruption in our own energetic field, and rather than trying to take action during that time where you might create a misstep or make a mistake or go down a path you didn't mean to go down, it's more about contemplation at this point in time. And so there's the yielding, right? Contemplation. Also, I know that on a bigger global level, a lot of people are concerned with the events in the world and how things are unfolding. Things look like they're escalating and ramping up, and people do want to take action around that. And again, what I get from my team around that is that you have a more powerful way of taking action by addressing what's going on internally and getting your frequency to match that, to match the experience you'd like to have. So if you'd like to experience unity, if you'd like to experience peace, if you'd like to experience love and well-being, we want to be a vibrational match to that in our experience, which means we're really focusing on, to get it out in the world, we actually have to stop and consider, am I being unconscious or conscious? Am I staying mindful, or am I going unconscious? starting there has a really beautiful ripple effect. No one's going to know the work that you're doing, the ergo keeping your involvement hidden. And it's not about that outcome so much as staying as a frequency match. And those of us who resonate with terms like starseed or light worker, light being, we know it's all about our frequency. We know, especially like for people who, if you're into human design, um, many people are generators. If you are a generator in human design, it's all about your frequency because we're like antennas amplifying the frequency. And so first we identify and amplify our own frequency, and then it has an effect on the world around us. So it's still very much about what's going on in here. That's by addressing that, you can address the world at large, keeping your involvement hidden, getting it out in the world, and not taking a direct action, at least not in the way that you think you might need to. This isn't to say that there's no actions to take, only that in order to know the most aligned action or the best action for you to take, again, is to close your eyes, focus in, get mindful, get in this hemisphere, and be guided by what action would be the best for you to take. All right, now let's look at outcomes for Neptune in Sagittarius in the 12th house of the subconscious mind. The spiritual outcome is the idealization of insights to understand your faith. There's a lot of ahas and epiphanies that can happen at this time, especially as we become more aware of our own unconscious behavior, our own unconscious thoughts, how we sort of reactively do things rather than purposely do things. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of like, oh my gosh, I see it now. It's even written in the stars at this time that will become easier to see and more apparent so you can deal with it. So I feel like there is sort of a payoff here where it's just like the light bulb moment that goes off. And as you understand that, of course, it's going to deepen your connection from within. It's going to deepen your sense of self. And I would even equate that to like a sense of faith, even if it's faith in you or faith in something bigger. It's going to deepen that. It can also, we can also make it overly important. So that's what it means to idealize, right? Like it's the highest level, or it's the most grand or important thing, or the best version of the thing that we can do. There's a little bit of that happens here as well. So rather than getting overly attached to the epiphany or the big feeling, rather try to understand, okay, now that I understand where I was sort of asleep, now what do I do as I'm awake and aware? Mental outcome at this time, confusion regarding the wisdom of hidden tendencies. So like I said, there's this big aha awareness energy. There's the wisdom of your hidden tendencies right there. It's like, finally I see it. Now I understand why I'm operating. Oh my gosh. I feel like we might want to dive really deep into the why, into the backstory, and that gets confusing only because we're getting off track, right? The whole point of the deep dive is to become present with what's going on, right? We're looking for, why isn't this growing? What's going on? Where did I go unconscious? And how do I bring myself back to presence so that I can then be back in my power in some way? I feel like as we get this aha light bulb moment, it's kind of like reading a mystery novel. We just want to keep reading. Well, where did that come from? And how did that come to pass and come to be? We could be really distracted by that. I feel like it takes us off course. It's sort of like going on a tangent when, and we all have this tendency at times, right? That we're working on something, but then we get distracted and then we're on a tangent where we're supposed to be focusing on our work, but we end up on social media on this tangent. And then we're confused and we're diluting our energy by adding too much into it. So part of this is recognizing that once we get the information, if we'd like to move forward with the growth part and the aligned action part, then we need to refocus into that. Seems like we might have a little bit of a caveat here, or a sticky spot where it's more like a navel gazing starts happening, where we really start looking into it and going deeper and deeper. I'm not going to say don't do that, because you do what you want. It's more about, like, I mean, if you need to deep dive and dig around in there, maybe there's something else you can get. But if you're attempting to move out of a resistance towards something, or if you're attempting to clear a stagnant energy, remind yourself that that's the task, and that will make it easier to get out of the tangent. Physical outcome at this time: sacrifice resulting from the understanding of large institutions or overwhelming events. When I hear this one, it's hard not to think about it on the global level. There's, obviously big things happening in the world right now. My brain just sort of goes there. I'm trying to see it on the more intimate level. I think on the more intimate level, we just become clear on what's really important and what to focus on, like what's working for us, and sort of letting go of the extra, including on the emotional level. There is a lot that we hold on to. There's a lot of like stressing over things or feeling stuck. I know for myself, sometimes I stay in the stuck place too long. And that's an area where I feel like I could learn to grow, and I could learn to become more conscious, is that just because things don't feel like they're working or something feels stuck doesn't mean you have to stay stuck. And so part of it is being willing to let go of your own stories, and maybe the large events going on in the world sort of bring us clarity about, again, what's important or what to focus on, what to bring our attention to. And that's just talking about that in this week. Seems like we get more clarity from that, from whatever's going on. Again, when you see things like loss of life, when you see things like war, when you see things like struggle, a lot of the inconsequential stories, the sort of backstories that keep going on about, how things are going on a personal level, meaning we stop overindulging in maybe things like being stuck or being lost or confused or being angry or holding resentment. And we start letting that go and understanding that in order to move forward and feel empowered and in peace and hopeful, that we do have to let go a lot of the petty stuff. Like we don't have time to be petty. Now is the time to be focused and serious and calm and collected and connected divinely to spirit. So there's a lot of ways that I can help you do that. And one of the ways I can help you do that is through the meditations I provide on Insight Timer, as well as my podcast, Modern Mystic Soul, and of course, private readings as well. If you wanted to connect with me and look at your own future, especially one of the areas that I specialize in is where are the blocks. I like to help people find those blocks and then also help them learn how to bust through them. So if that's something you'd like help with or guidance on, you can definitely go to the link below. You can book a time to work with me and I can help you do that. Or like I said, I have many resources that I have for you that you can access immediately, including meditations right here on YouTube. So check out my channel, dig around, see what's there. There's a lot of helpful ones. One of the most popular on Insight Timer that's also here on YouTube is my sleep affirmations for self-esteem and self-confidence. That's one of my most popular, and it's here on YouTube as well. So if you want help getting a good night's sleep and also helping access both hemispheres of the brain so that we are feeling balanced, we're feeling empowered and in deep trust within ourselves and with our higher self, you should check that out. And of course, leave me a comment. Let me know, is there anything that you want clarity on in this week's reading? Does it resonate for you? Are you also feeling that? Did you find your aha and get unstuck? I'd like to hear from you, so let me know. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I'm sending you so much love. Mwah.